Scotland, a land of bagpipes, haggis, thistles, and a whole lot of drama. But in the late 1200s, this beautiful country wasn't just about rolling hills and woolly sheep. It was the stage for a battle of epic proportions, led by a legend whose courage would echo through time. This is the story of William Wallace, freedom fighter, outlaw, hero, or as history and Hollywood would later call him, Braveheart. William Wallace was born around 1270, likely in Elderslie in Renfrewshire, or maybe Ellerslie in Ayrshire. Honestly, even historians argue about it. Back then, records were fuzzy at best. But here's what we do know. He wasn't born into royalty or fame. He was the second son of a minor noble, which meant he wasn't expected to inherit land or titles. But that turned out to be a good thing. It gave him freedom and an education. Wallace was smart. Thanks to his uncle, a priest, he learned to read and write Latin and French, and picked up some serious debating skills. Imagine a kid who could quote Aristotle and swing a broadsword. Scotland was thrown into crisis when King Alexander III died in 1286, after riding his horse off a cliff in the dark. With no adult heir, the throne passed to his 3-year-old granddaughter Margaret, the Maid of Norway. But in true medieval fashion, she also died, on her way to Scotland. With no clear ruler, the Scottish nobles asked England's King Edward I to help pick a new king. Bad idea. Edward, known as Longshanks, because he had very long legs and a longer ego, didn't help. He took over. He invaded Scotland, built castles, and demanded obedience. For the Scots, it was humiliation, and for Wallace, it was personal. English soldiers reportedly killed his father and brother. And in one version of the story, they murdered his wife, Marion Braidfute, after Wallace attacked an English garrison. That was the final straw. Wallace went from farmer's son to freedom fighter. With no army, no money, and no formal title, Wallace did the impossible. He united angry farmers, rogue knights, and wandering clans under one cause, Scottish independence. His first major move? The raid on Lanark in 1297. He ambushed the English sheriff and lit the spark of rebellion. Then came the big one, the Battle of Stirling Bridge. The English, confident and cocky, marched across a narrow bridge, right into Wallace's trap. His men cut them down mid-crossing. It was genius, a classic example of using the land and timing to crush a larger enemy. Scotland roared with pride. Wallace was knighted and made guardian of the realm. But here's the twist. He never sought the crown. He wasn't in it for power. He just wanted freedom. Oh, and fun fact, Wallace even sent letters to the Hanseatic League in Europe trying to build diplomatic relations. Warrior and diplomat. Not bad for a guy from the countryside. But glory doesn't last forever. In 1298, at the Battle of Falkirk, Scottish nobles, yep, his own allies, betrayed him. The English unleashed their archers, and Wallace's forces were overwhelmed. Wallace stepped down, vanishing from the spotlight, becoming a shadow in the forests and hills. But he didn't give up. He continued resistance, alone. For 7 long years, Wallace stayed underground, avoiding capture. But in 1305, he was betrayed by a Scottish knight named John de Menteith and handed over to the English. In London, he was charged with treason. Wallace didn't flinch. He told the court, "I never swore allegiance to Edward." And technically, he was right. He was sentenced to death in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. But Wallace faced it all with dignity. His final word, according to legend, freedom. Wallace's death only fueled the fire. In 1314, Robert the Bruce, once Wallace's rival, led Scotland to a major victory at the Battle of Bannockburn, securing independence. Centuries later, Wallace became Scotland's greatest hero. He inspired generations. He got statues, poems, and, yep, even an Oscar-winning movie where Mel Gibson painted his face blue and shouted dramatically. By the way, the real Wallace never wore a kilt, and the blue war paint. Probably more Celtic than Scottish, but hey, it made for great cinema. William Wallace wasn't perfect. He wasn't born into greatness. But he stood up for what he believed in when no one else would. He was brave, he was bold, and his dream of freedom changed history. Thanks for watching Wrath of History. If you enjoyed this Pixar-powered journey into the past, give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to join the rebellion. Freedom awaits, and so do more epic stories.